Hey everyone, welcome and thank you so much for tuning in to a very special Sprout Social live stream. My name is Kristin Johnson. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the VP of Content and Communications here at Sprout. So today we are having a very casual and fun conversation about one of my very favorite topics, influencer marketing. I am not alone in this discussion. I am joined by some incredibly talented people that I will introduce in just a minute. But before I do that, I'm going to cover off on some housekeeping. So you're going to hear us reference data throughout our discussion, and that is because Sprout recently released our latest pulse survey data. It is a really interesting insights about from social marketing leaders around influencer marketing, and I encourage you to check it out. So we will pop some links in the comments. Additionally, as you're watching, we want you to weigh in with your own perspectives, questions, and thoughts. We're not going to be able to answer everything during the live stream discussion, but we will do our best to get to them in the coming days. So now let's get to the good stuff, the discussion. I am excited to welcome two colleagues to help with today's topic, Jamie Gilpin and Pete Kennedy. I'll let them introduce themselves. Jamie, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. Hi, everyone. And thanks, Kristin. And she's not lying. Influencer and creators. It's like, if we could talk about that all day, we would. And so really excited to chat about this, especially with our, new partner and new team that we just added to Sprout and Tagger, and people introduce themselves in just a minute. But who am I? So I'm Jamie Gilpin, CMO at Sprout. For the past almost 5.5 years, have been in the software space for the majority of my career, mainly in marketing, came up through sales, and really excited for this next chapter of social and the really combination and unity with influencers. So, and with that, I will introduce, or I will bring Pete to the proverbial stage to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to be here. So I'm Pete Kennedy. I'm the founder and president over at Tagger Media. Started the company about 8 years ago and have been living and breathing the influencer space the entire time. And I can't be more thrilled to be part of the Sprout family. The whole team has been amazing, and we're excited for the merger of our two technologies and what that means for our customers.
Awesome. Well, welcome to both of you. I know we have a lot to cover off on, but I want to start us off with a question that puts all of us into the role of the consumer. So in our pulse survey, we found that the three most valuable benefits of influencer marketing are A, reaching new audiences, B, boosting engagement rates, and C, enhancing brand authenticity and trust. So to that end, what is a recent influencer or brand partnership you've seen that's really stuck with you and helped reach you as a consumer? So I'm going to go first because mine is all about that third one, authenticity and trust. So an influencer that I follow, it's signed Blake. I believe her name is Blake Gifford. She recently partnered with the retailer Revolve for Essence Fest. So the partnership itself really just consisted of some in-feed and story posts where she wore their clothing, which is not revolutionary by any stretch, but what really made this stand out to me and really interesting was the backstory that they have. So a few years ago, Blake actually called Revolve out for their lack of diversity and their lack of response to her concerns. So before she did this partnership earlier this year, she gave her audience this interesting kind of behind the scenes look at the in-depth conversations that she was having, the contract negotiations she was having with the brand. She shared her ongoing concerns and underscored why she now believed that they had changed and why she felt really good about the partnership. So that transparency on both sides of the conversation was really refreshing for me as a consumer, and it helped me buy into both the partnership as well as the brand. So that one's mine. I'm going to pass it to Pete.
Okay, yeah. So, talking about engagement boosting, I think your comment strategy is almost as important as your overall influencer marketing strategy. The comments are where thoughtful and, meaningful conversations being had around your brand or topics around your brand. And the comment strategy really starts with a call to action from the influencer to their audience about a conversation that they want to have. And then it's your job as the brand to figure out how do you want to engage with or support that conversation within the comments. And Bose, I love Bose products, but Bose did this campaign a couple of days ago where they worked with an influencer, Dad Advice from Bo. And he was doing housework around the house with music, listening through his headphones. And he was talking about how music is so much more enjoyable, or really housework is more enjoyable when you're listening to music. And one song brought him back to high school when he fell in love with music. And he said his call to action was, what song made you fall in love with music? That post got 30% more engagement than his other sponsored posts throughout the entire year, right? Because it pulled on the heartstrings of that audience. And it's meaningful to me because I brought my daughters to a Zach Bryan concert last week, and watching them fall in love with music, it was so amazing. And so when I saw this post, I'm like, oh yeah, they figured out that heart, right? And they were able to connect with their audience. So that was mine. Jamie, what is yours?
I love that. So mine is gonna not be as, deep and personal as both of yours, and just like, so beneficial to society, making music with your kids, diversity. But I will share mine. And actually, I don't think we even planned this, but mine is more on the awareness side. So we talked about engagement, we talked about trust and authenticity, and mine's more on the awareness side. So I'm a big Peloton fan. Not sure any of you out there. I will not share my favorite instructor, but I do follow, I think, all of them. And in particular, Kendall was posting around her love for Aloha protein bars. And it was the right time, right place, right time, because I'm on this. This is new for me. I'm in my 40s and I need to eat more protein. I'm also a vegetarian pescatarian. And so my sister is actually really trying to get me to eat more. And I hate most protein bars, but she went off about these. It felt very authentic. And so, as I usually do, I went all in. I went on Amazon, bought an entire box of them. They are very good. So I'm now also an influencer for Aloha protein bars. So that is my example. And that happens to me. That's one example of something that happens to me pretty much daily in my social usage of someone influencing me to buy, because social is a very big part of the consumer journey, which I know we're going to get into in just a bit, specific with influencers. But I also wanted to shout out one more, just as a marketer, I will shout out Shutterstock, because they had just a really creative campaign. Honestly, I think it hit all of those areas: awareness, trust, authenticity. It had a deeper purpose, which is around Pride Month. And leveraged influencers for creating art for Pride Month, which is really cool. But they actually did it by using Shutterstock's generative AI tools. So they used their product with influencers to meet a really important diversity initiative of Pride Month. And they just did a phenomenal job. I will do a quick plug because we actually captured their full story in a case study. And so please check that out on Tagger.
Awesome. I really love how each of those examples gives a little bit of insight into each of our minds and our day-to-day lives. So I'm going to go switch us from consumer. Jamie already started us thinking about marketers and influencer experts. So I want us to think about, before we start any campaign, before a marketer starts a campaign, they have to think about where that campaign lives in the customer journey. So let's start there. Pete, I want to hear from you. Can you talk a little bit about where you see influencer marketing fitting into that customer journey?
Yeah, definitely. And the question a lot of people have is is there a one size fits all model? And there really isn't, because every industry, every country, every social platform, every audience, every desired KPI, every content type has their own nuance and really customer behavior that you have to account for. So when you're building that strategy, you have to think about all those different things. And then layer on top of that, which is what all of our customers are doing, is they're looking at that customer journey from awareness to consideration to purchase to retention, then to advocacy. And they're using influencer content throughout that entire journey. Why? Because influencer content gets 300% better engagement than branded content does. Okay, so they know that and they're utilizing that. And that means that we're going to be using this influencer content in email marketing. We're going to be using it on e-commerce websites. We're going to be using it on paid media outside of just social media because it does so well. And because of all that, you have nuances with all these different formats and all these different areas that we're going to be putting all this content. So again, a lot of nuance that goes into it. And what's really interesting is when you look at the users of Tagger and you look at the titles of those users, it's not just influencer marketing managers. We have strategists, we have analysts on our platform, media planners, e-commerce managers, growth marketers. So that just shows that these brands and agencies that work with us, they're thinking way broader than just hiring an influencer and posting that on their social channels. They're looking at the entire customer journey and how can influencer play a role in all of that.
Yeah, I love that. And just thinking about, I think there's also a little bit of a misnomer, at least in my CMO circles, of, influencer and social is really about the brand awareness piece, where it can be such a critical part of how you pull through that experience throughout every part of the customer journey. And I know Tagger's been thinking about that for a while, and so is Sprout. And so it's going to be really exciting to bring the two together. The other thing that I'll highlight two other areas that are really important to me as a CMO, but also just in my networks. One, and we talked about this a little bit with our examples, but the critical role that an influencer strategy can bring to your brand and your plight to be authentic, and your plight to really genuinely display your brand's values and your relevance to your audience. Like, it cannot be understated, the importance of an influencer strategy in doing that. And as consumers, we crave authenticity. We crave that connection to brands. And the easiest, albeit not always easy to manage, which is why Tagger is so critical in this, but the easiest way to get there is really with influencers, right? Creators, people who they already have relationships with, that then make that connection between them and your brand. And so that is obviously a big part of it. And then I cannot talk about any strategy without saying the words ROI, because that is on the top of all of our minds right now. And I think that is one of the other big areas of opportunity within influencer. And again, I'll just keep shouting out Tagger, but you do such an incredible job with analytics, but understanding, tracking performance, measuring conversion of those strategies to revenue, to brand awareness, to perception, campaigns, and goals is also a really big part of that. And then I think that really like holy grail of how that compares to your other efforts. You mentioned, using leveraging influencers beyond social, how those campaigns really compare to everything else that you're doing is another just really big opportunity in this space.
Yeah, I love that, Jamie. And I also love the idea of, everyone thinks of ROI as like conversion or awareness, the KPIs that you're tracking towards. But what is the ROI on that piece of content when you can use that across that entire customer journey? Then the ROI on just the production level is massive. Yeah. And so, yeah, you have to think more beyond just like the conversion and what is the value of that content.
Yeah, love that.
I would love to, because I'll be honest, I still feel like a lot of influencer marketing is really relegated to one piece of the team, one piece of the strategy. Where do you see the biggest kind of untapped opportunity, whether that's within a marketing strategy, within the business strategy, to really start infusing influencer marketing? And how would you structure the team accordingly?
Are you talking to me or Jamie?
I mean, I'll go for both of you, but I would love first maybe with Jamie, if you want to talk about the impact that it can have kind of different areas and of the business.
Yeah. So we're talking a lot about marketing. I'll throw one more stat out there to support this. Obviously, I'm a marketer, so I'm very familiar. But in the Pulse survey, again, we'll share that out. But 81% of social marketers say that influencer marketing is an essential part of their social media strategy. 79% say that influencer content, which is what Pete is talking about, is absolutely critical to meet their customers' expectations. So it, again, cannot be understated, the importance that influencer marketing and influencer strategy, really relationships with creators, play in our ability to meet and exceed our marketing goals. But I'll kind of riff back on some of the things you were talking about, Pete, because I think it's so much more than marketing, right? Like the insights that you can glean from not just influencers, but social strategy across all these different inputs of data can inform your product strategy, right? Can inform how you're thinking about your employee engagement and recruiting strategy. It informs, I mean, even all the way to investor relations, right? Like all of those insights, and I'm literally listing all of our use cases that we have here at Sprout, but also what we see our customers using. I think when we really expand the the importance of the data, but also the impact that influencer and social strategy has together. It really does span the entire organization. And more importantly, back to your point, the entire customer journey.
So Pete, I think one of the bigger challenges that we've talked a lot about the strategy itself, but identifying the right influencers to help kind of accelerate that strategy is a huge challenge for teams as they think about implementing their strategy. How do you solve for this? They're using obviously influencer marketing platforms like Tagger, but can you give us a little bit more of what is needed for an effective platform?
Yeah, and I'll talk about discovery because I think that's where most platforms start. Is like, I need to go find influencers for my campaign. And going back to what Jamie said, I don't even know how you would begin that process without having the strategy. Like, do you even know what platform matters within your industry or your product line? Do you even know what seasonality means within your industry or product line, right? And so every marketer, whether it's for influencer marketing or just marketing in general, knows that a strategy requires a comprehensive understanding of the audience, their needs, their behaviors, their preferences, as well as like what's happening in the competitive landscape and trends within your industry. And all that means is that you need to pull in thousands and thousands of pieces of data and variables, not just a handful, in order to get to that strategy. And that strategy then leads you towards what I always like to refer to, and Jamie knows this too, is the who, what, when, where, why. Who are the audiences you're going after? Who are the influencers that matter in that space? What content's going to resonate with your target audience? What category of influencers matter? When should you do this? Is there seasonality? Where should you do this? What's your channel strategy? And then why is the most important for me? Why are we running this campaign? Well, it could be that your competitors are spending a ton in this space, so we need to spend in order to compete with them. Or there might be benefits to your product or industry that you should be talking about, and maybe your competitors are not talking about that. That's the white space, and that's where you get the ROI. So yes, you need all of that strategy, the who, what, when, where, why, in order to then go find those creators. And then when it comes into the creators, it's like, I need to find the influencer that makes sense for my brand, and I need to find the audience that makes sense for my brand. And when those two things merge, that's where the magic happens within influencer marketing. And if I can go and build a strategy report that looks at an industry and say, oh, this creator historically has performed well in this space, then that's who I want to go work with, and then add another 50,000 variables onto that. But yeah, that strategy piece is the most important part for your campaign.
All right, you're leading me into our final question. I can't believe this is going so quickly, but here we go. It's really around, I felt like we're getting some actionable feedback right now. Like what is like the one thing as you think about our audience here today, what should they start doing today when it comes to influencer marketing? Jamie, I'm gonna kick it off with you.
I'm not in sales, but I'm a pretty good salesperson. There's an amazing platform that helps you do all of this, including strategy. But I think the other piece is, and this is what we talk about a lot at Sprout, in the context of social, and I think influencer is a big part of this. Like, what is your team? Pete, you were just talking about this. Like, what's the why? Like, does your influencer strategy have an actual strategy? And is it aligned to the broader marketing goals, the broader business goals? And so I think the one thing is making sure that your team, your executives, all those that are involved in business planning really understand how this strategy truly empowers us to meet and exceed our goals. Do you have an actual strategy, and how are you implementing? And then do you have the right skills? Are the folks that are managing your influencer strategy really aligned with the rest of your team and your organization? Where do you need to bring skills into the organization? Where do you need to hire? I think I always think about the people, the process, and the technology to ultimately implement a strategy. And Tagger, technology check. Do you have the skills? Do you have the processes internally to make it happen?
Yeah. I'm gonna, before I pass it to Pete to close us out, I'll say for me, it's about something that he just referenced, which is that white space. Finding that white space, starting there. You don't want to just be part of the noise. And so when you're thinking about who you're identifying as your influencers, understanding that white space and really honing in there. And I think that's where you make a really big impact from a marketing strategy. And then Pete, close us out. What should they do today?
No, I mean, what we should do today is everything that Jamie said, and that you were talking about as well. I'd like to talk for a second about what the future looks like, and the future is today, and that's really AI. It's so funny. People would talk about AI 2 years ago, and it'd be like, it's not really AI, but now it's a real thing. And what AI allows us to do now is take a fairly complicated media execution and make it easier for everyone. And AI is touching every part of our platform going forward, right? When we think about campaign management workflow, you have to go reach out to 100 people and ask them to work with your brand. Well, what if AI can look at all of their content, all of your brand's content, and find a voice between the two of you that's going to make that influencer want to work with you? Okay. When we talk about strategy, let's take thousands of posts from creators about a particular industry or product, and then let's identify what those benefits are that people are talking about. And how does your brand stack up to everyone else within that space, right? To figure out where you should be, what you should be talking about based off of kind of how you're being positioned in market. And then another piece that I'm really excited about is Sprout has done such an amazing job with sentiment, being able to take that sentiment into our platform to understand really a creator's overall sentiment, but how are they talking about a particular industry? And is that sentiment positive, negative, or neutral? So I know that I want to work with them. There's 50,000 other things that we're doing and implementing, but yeah, those are some of the neat things. But it's not going to replace anyone's job. What it's going to do is it's going to make you better at your job and make you more efficient at what you do.
Totally agree. Well, thank you, team. That went by incredibly quickly. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us. That was a lot of fun. So thank you to everybody watching. Hopefully that sparked a new idea or two or gave you some new perspective. I'll leave all of our viewers with two things. First, the resources that we mentioned throughout today will be included and linked in the comments. Second, if you liked this discussion, please follow Sprout Social on LinkedIn. I know I'm a little bit biased, but we consistently share really thoughtful content and conversations on our page, and you don't want to miss it. So that is my sales pitch. I hope you all have a really lovely day. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.